According to a statement issued by the broadcaster, BBC Arabic correspondent Feras Kilani, a British citizen, along with 2 BBC colleagues and 4 Syrian freelancers, were held for 7 hours on May 9th while filming in southern Syria near Golan Heights. The team have described how they were tied up, blindfolded, strip searched, interrogated, and threatened, the BBC said, adding that soldiers also confiscated and deleted material from their devices, despite making clear to the soldiers on multiple occasions that they were working for the BBC. The behavior they were subjected to is wholly unacceptable. The IDF soldiers reportedly pointed their rifles at the heads of the reporters and confiscated their phones and cameras. One officer, speaking fluent Palestinian Arabic, told Kilani he would be treated differently from the rest of the crew, but still demanded he strip to his underwear under threat. He was interrogated about personal details, including his children, while the rest of his team was bound, blindfolded, and subjected to the same process. And listen to the chilling threat they were given by the IDF. The officer threatened us with worse consequences if we approached the frontier from the Syrian side again, and said that they know everything about us and would track us down if any hidden or undeleted photo was ever published. As of now, the IDF has yet to comment on the situation. But Cenk, what do you make of this?
Yeah, so this is a twofer. Israel has done this very regularly recently. So one is targeting journalists because they don't want word getting out about all the horrific war crimes and ethnic cleansing and genocide that they're doing. I'm glad that they're slightly embarrassed about it, but their way of going about it is to either humiliate and detain and steal the work product of journalists, or just simply to murder them. And a little bit later, we're gonna have stats for you guys on how they have killed more journalists than conflicts that were way larger. I mean, you're gonna be shocked at those numbers. So, and it's not just in killing the journalists and detaining the journalists. They're trying to shut down any social media. They're trying to shut down any person in media who speaks against Israel. They're trying to shut down anyone on a college campus who speaks against Israel. I mean, Israel is doing the biggest cancel culture project that anyone has ever seen. So this is them trying to cancel all foreign press and trying to send a message to them saying, you better not try to tell people the truth about Israel. If you don't lie on our behalf, and you dare try to do actual reporting, there's gonna be significant consequences for you. And then the second part is the humiliation. They love to do this. And it's a lot of what tormentors do. I feel like Israel has become one giant Stanford prison experiment where they've become the guards and they've taken on that role. And they've become like gratuitously, disgustingly torturous. And so they're just going in and going, oh, what else can we do? Oh yeah, let's strip them down and we'll march them around in their underwear. That'll show the Palestinians and the stupid journalists covering the Palestinians. Jesus Christ, what happened to Israel? This is unbelievable. And so look, it's one thing if you hate Israel, it's another thing if you're neutral. But if you love Israel, this is what you wanted Israel to be? This was your dream? God, I hope that's not the case. Because it's turned into something monstrous in this ridiculous effort to so-called protect themselves, right? What part? Notice where the story is in. It's not in Israel. It's not even in the occupied territories. This is in Syria. What the hell are they doing in Syria? Well, they're doing Greater Israel. Because I mean, look, I don't know if you're an Israeli supporter. Did you know the plan was always Greater Israel? Do you love that it's Greater Israel and that you keep going into Arab land and taking it and pretending it's for self-defense and then slaughtering the people inside and treating them as hostages and prisoners for 58 years? Was that the goal? Was that what you dreamt about with Israel? That you always wanted to take more and more Arab land while pretending to do self-defense? Or did you really actually want a peaceful Israel? Because if you wanted Israel that lived in peace with its neighbors, you're going in the exact wrong direction. And if you wanted it to be a safe haven for Jews, how does it help to get the entire world to despise Israel by doing things like this? How does that help? So I don't know. If you love Israel, you should be 10,000 times more disgusted by this story than we are, and you should take action to get Israel to turn around. But if this is what you like, then you become a monster too. All right, we're gonna give you more evidence in a sec.
But yeah, I think that regardless of what Israel or anybody who supports Israel's government's goal was, what we're looking at is just a complete lack of boundaries and a lack of consequences for anything that they've ever done. Because the first issue was Israel being founded in land that was already occupied. So that in and of itself created the issue that's still been going on. But I mean, ever since Israel's founding, America has been firmly behind their government. So I mean, this is one of the issues that Democrats and Republicans are practically identical on in terms of the handling of the Israeli state. Doesn't matter what they do, they get the weapons that they request when they request them. They get upgrades when they request them. And despite the world's lack of enthusiasm for what's happening to the Palestinian people, what difference does it make if the powers that be don't do anything about it? So even if we get a real progressive to be president, which that's a huge uphill battle. It's easier to get progressives in like House seats and stuff like that. Nothing's impossible. But even if we did do that, I mean, sure, maybe we could get a little bit of leeway. But what would really change? Because that AIPAC money and just Israeli influence over, them being one of our top allies. Is one person really going to be able to change that? So unfortunately, I think this is an issue that may never change that much unless everybody, not just Americans, but the whole world stands up to the leaders in their government and demand change. Otherwise, it's just too ingrained in the system.
We've got some of the stats that show that this isn't just them humiliating journalists intermittently, or this isn't an anomaly. They're also killing them in record numbers. And a report published in early April found that Israel's war on Gaza has killed 232 journalists, an average of 13 per month, making it the deadliest conflict for media workers ever recorded, according to a report by the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs Costs of Wars project. More journalists have been killed in Gaza than in both world wars, the Vietnam War, the wars in Yugoslavia, and the United States war in Afghanistan combined. I mean, Cenk, how do you feel when you hear those numbers, when you hear that stat, and all of these wars combined? It is horrific.
I literally told that to somebody that's at the ACLU at a University of Chicago panel that we did together. And she was on the left with me. We were defending freedom of speech. And so I brought it up in the context of freedom of speech. And she said, no. There's no way that that's true. Now, why does she say that? One is, of course, bias. Beloved Israel can do no wrong, even though they've slaughtered more journalists. Yes, slaughtered. Whenever it's Palestinians, the New York Times says slaughtered. When Palestinians doing it. Whenever it's Palestinians getting slaughtered, they say, oh, killed, statistic, number, right? No, they're human beings. Those are journalists. By the way, if you're at the New York Times and you're at other mainstream media outlets, I mean, those should be considered your colleagues. Obviously, they're not your colleagues because you're not real reporters. So, and that leads me to another point, which is that our media, our so-called reporters, are the worst in the world. Okay, why do I say that? So, how many times have you heard that amazing journalist number? The number of journalists killed, more than World War I, World War II, Vietnam, etc. All that combined. How many times you've never? Outside of the Young Turks, my guess is that you've never heard it. Why aren't other journalists in America outraged by that? I mean, my God, when there's journalists killed in other conflicts, rightfully so, they're like, this is outrageous, right? When Khashoggi was chopped up, a Washington Post columnist, by the Saudis, we all went nuts over it. We all still remember it, and that's good. That's good. So that's one journalist that the Saudis killed, and we spent years talking about it. Over 200 journalists murdered by Israel. And to Jackson's point, really, every reporter in the country didn't notice that the AIPAC money might be influencing our Congress people. Do you know that 87% of the people in Congress take money from AIPAC and affiliated groups. And oh, what an amazing coincidence. Every single one of them votes to give Israel endless money, no matter what they do. But yet not a single mainstream media reporter in this country noticed that? Come on, you guys are a joke. A total and utter joke. You didn't notice either one of those amazing facts. No. Oh, golly gee, it's Israel. I just couldn't see it. Okay, but the good news is now online media, social media is strong enough that people are all waking up from this matrix and going, what? AIPAC's the #1 donor to people in Congress? And these loser marketing executives at New York Times and CNN, and that's what they are. They're not reporters. They're just marketing executives or donors. They didn't notice that the largest donor and the fact that we have given over $300 billion to Israel to steal more land, to kill more Arabs, to kill more journalists. They just couldn't, they didn't notice. They didn't, oh golly gee, is that what's happening? We didn't notice. And let alone the propaganda about how they're the most moral army and the Palestinians had it coming because they use human shields. By the way, that human shields line is literally the defense of every single government that has ever committed a genocide. They always say, well, the Armenians were hiding behind their own civilians. We had no choice but to slaughter them all. Well, the Jews were hiding behind their own civilians, and the Croats and the Bosnians were hiding behind their own civilians, so we had to kill them all. You see, and you know why we did it? Self-defense, self-defense. But our reporters in America haven't figured it out. Reporters all across the world, governments across the world, start rebelling against Israel. Why do you work for them? Tell me, I get why our scumbag politicians work for them. They literally get bribed. I know it's legal bribes, but it's obviously bribes. But reporters, why do you work for them? And aren't you just embarrassed? So they humiliate these poor BBC reporters, strip them down to their underwear, do all this stuff, right? But in a sense, aren't they doing that to everyone on cable news in America? I mean, they have to go out there and do this humiliating reports like, Israel is the most moral army. The Palestinians had it coming. They deserve it. They're the terrorists. Not Israel, not Israel. Israel has killed over 500 times the number of children that Hamas killed. And our dumbass, humiliated reporters go out there and go, no, Hamas and Palestinians are the savage terrorists. Israel, no way. They accidentally murdered 16,000 kids. They accidentally murdered 30,000 women and children. It was all an accident. They didn't mean it. They're the best. Humiliating.
Well, I think also not just the biggest issue obviously is the money and how long it's been involved, but also, this kind of reminds me of how the public and reporters and things like that have become very desensitized to issues like gun violence in America. It's so permeated in our daily news cycle. It's so much a part of what we expect that you just kind of look the other way. And unfortunately, I think that that's what a lot of the public feels. For people who aren't like very strong supporters of Palestinian rights, it's just kind of like, oh well, just another day, another thing that Israel's doing. So it's just ingrained in how we do what we do.
It's just heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. This is totally preventable. There's no need for it. And I think there's a lot of blood on the hands of international agencies and especially US politicians who enable it and block any attempt to hold this government and their military accountable, because that's why this continues. If there were any repercussions for this at 1 death, at 2 deaths, it wouldn't happen. And it wouldn't be the numbers that we're seeing, more than all of these wars combined.
Yeah, our governments are all giant sellouts. They don't represent us at all. Do you think the British government represents the British people? You think they're enraged by what happened to BBC? No, they're gonna lie down and take it again. They're gonna make excuses for Israel. They're gonna send them more money, more weapons, kill more Palestinians, humiliate our journalists even more. And they're nothing compared to America. I'm sick of Israeli control. And if you're saying that Israel doesn't control our politicians, you're a moron or deeply, deeply biased, and you live in an alternate reality, a crazy la-la land where facts are upside down. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true. but it does keep you updated on our live shows.